Tell me about one time you intuitively know you were being cheated on without proof.
So I pretty much have the best one. My husband at the time, now ex-husband, I thought he was cheating, and I decided, it was about 2 years we'd been married, and I decided to download one of those apps and catfish him. So I pretended to be another girl, and I started texting him, sending him pictures from a beautiful Facebook that I found, and we planned on meeting at Starbucks on our anniversary, me and my ex-husband's anniversary, and he texted me and said, "Hey, I'm gonna be late. I'm working and I can't get off in time, blah blah blah," and he proceeded to go to Starbucks. As he was there waiting, I texted him as the girl and said, "I'm sorry, I can't do this to your wife. I can't meet you," and he ended up coming home. Part two
is a blind girl who hated herself purely for the fact that she was blind. The only person she didn't hate was her loving boyfriend, as he was always there for her. She said that if she could only see the world, she would marry him. One day, someone donated a pair of eyes to her. Now she could see everything, including her boyfriend. Her boyfriend asked her, "Now that you can see the world, will you marry me?" The girl was shocked when she saw that her boyfriend was blind too, and refused to marry him. Her boyfriend walked away in tears and later wrote a note to her saying, "Just take care of my eyes, dear."
So I am a first grade teacher, but in my first year of teaching, I started off in a first grade classroom and got moved to a fifth grade classroom. In order to deal with this transition, which was very stressful, I started drinking energy drinks, at least one a day. And one day, a student brings me an energy drink, and I'm pretty jazzed. But my other students are freaking out. Turns out 20 out of my 24 students believed that Monsters were alcoholic, and that I had been drinking alcohol and teaching them for the whole year. And that's when I asked them if they thought I had been teaching them drunk since December. Why didn't they tell their parents, the principals, the police? And my fifth graders looked me dead in the eye and said, "Snitches get stitches, and they aren't narcs." It was an experience.
I will never understand why school has to start at 7 in the fucking morning. Like, what do you think I am? A fucking rooster? Oh, cock-a-doodle-doo. More like, fuck you. And then teachers come in all, "Come on, you guys, you gotta pick up the energy. What's going on?" "Oh, I don't know, Barbara. Maybe it's because it's fucking 7 in the morning." Like, why are you expecting me to solve a triangle? Bitch, you're built like a triangle. Why don't you do it?
Storytime about the craziest thing I saw while working at a mental health facility. I work in a mental health facility as a psychiatric technician. My job is to help people with mental health distress by providing emotional support, helping develop positive coping skills, and provide medical attention. Some of the individuals that I treat have severe mental illness, which can lead to violence. One day I was assigned to a patient that I'll never forget. He was on a 24-hour observation because he was self-harming and deemed high risk. He had tried to harm others earlier in the day, so he was locked into a padded room with only a bed, a bathroom, and a tear-proof blanket. I was assigned to watch him for the day from outside of the room to ensure that he wouldn't harm himself until he could be seen by a doctor. He was talking about things that made absolutely no sense, running around in circles inside of the room and asking me if I was Jesus. He would start screaming at the top of his lungs about random things, curse at me one minute then apologize the next, and kept spinning on the window just to wipe it off a few seconds later. I attempted to calm him down, but he was on a rampage. At one point, he turned his back to me and appeared to be rubbing his eye for some time. However, when he turned around, I almost passed out. He had ripped his eyeball completely out of the socket and began tossing it up and down in the air while calmly singing to himself. The situation only got worse from here. The craziest thing I saw while working at a mental health facility. The man continued throwing his eyeball in the air and catching it while calmly singing slow jams. In disbelief, I immediately called for the guards to come and help me. As they came running, I told the man to stop playing with the eyeball and put it down. He then flashed me a smile and put his eyeball close to his mouth. I knew where this was going, so I begged him not to do it. He proceeded to put his eyeball in his mouth and began intensely chewing it. The guards unlocked his door and rushed in. He was jumping and running around trying to avoid them. When they finally got him restrained and under control, they told him to open his mouth and spit out the eyeball. Sure enough, he quickly swallowed it. I asked him why he would do that, and he told me that President Ronald Reagan told him to. He said it's okay because he still has another eye left and he could see just fine, and that he only wanted to have one anyway. That's when the ambulance arrived to come and take him to the hospital. When the paramedics asked him what happened to his eye, he proceeded to throw up on demand in front of everyone. He pointed to his chewed up eyeball and the pile of vomit on the floor and asked them if they could put it back in his eye socket for him. After going to the hospital, he was transferred to a different facility for a higher level of care. To this day, whenever I see someone rubbing their eye, I get scared.
My sister thinks I'm being selfish because I'm not putting my own health at risk to give her baby. So just over 4 months ago, I gave birth to my fourth and last child. It was a high-risk pregnancy and the birth was very difficult. I won't go into detail as it is still hard for me to think about, but me and the baby are both fine. My doctors advised me that it would be best not to have any more kids, and I agreed. My husband just recently had a vasectomy and is now recovering. My sister and her boyfriend have tried planning for a family for a while, but recently found out she can't conceive. She's been very upset about this, and I do feel sorry for her. Our family mentioned adoption or surrogacy for them, and even though my sister's boyfriend was on board, my sister said she needed time to think. Well, a couple of nights ago, my sister called me to tell me her and her boyfriend had agreed on surrogacy. We talked for a bit, and after a while, she brought up the fact how I had done so well in all of my pregnancy and how I must have loved being pregnant. I knew exactly where this was going, and I reminded her how my last pregnancy went. Yet she told me everything was fine now, so what was my issue? I told her that even though I'm around now, I won't put myself through that again, and just because I'm fine now doesn't mean everything will be fine the next time. She then straight up asked me,
Extremely toxic best friend story time. So when I was in 8th grade, there was this boy. And this boy would go around telling almost every girl that he liked her. And I was one of those girls. And he would do stuff with all of us. And there were like 11 of us. So we all hated each other. Especially this one girl, and we're gonna call her Abby. And every time we saw each other, we would be super mean to each other. Well, a year passed, we stopped talking to this kid, and I bumped into her at homecoming and basically apologized. So after that, we became best friends. And everything was good until every time I told her about a guy, she would start talking to them. Like this one boy that I was Snapchatting and talking to, she accidentally sent nudes to him and said, "Oh, sorry, I meant to send them to my boyfriend." So then she called one of my other best friends and said, "No, it actually wasn't an accident." And of course he told me because he was my best friend. So I was like, whatever, and stopped talking to the boy. And she did it again, like for part 2.
This is why I don't tell anyone where I live. There was once a boy who asked his single father for a bedtime story, so the father told him. There was once a boy named Colby who made friends with another boy online called Helper23. On Colby's birthday, Helper23 wanted to give him a present in real life, so Colby gave him his home address, where he lives with his mom, his dad, and his little brother. But then Colby started to feel a bit weird about giving his address to a stranger online. The next night, he thought he had to tell his parents about it. He called out to his dad but got no reply, then found both his parents killed and a man wearing a dark hoodie holding a knife in the hallway. As Colby started to beg for his life, he hears his little brother crying in the next room. The intruder then strangles Colby and leaves the house with Colby's baby brother. The boy then looks up at his father and asks, "Why did the intruder take the baby?" To which his father just calmly smiled and said, "I've always wanted to be a father."
So when I was a sophomore in high school, I had this teacher who would only let the students in her class use the restroom one time per semester. Well, one day I raised my hand and I was like, "Excuse me," I don't remember her name, "can I please use the restroom?" And she was like, "No, you can't because you've already used the restroom in my class this semester." Well, excuse me, you can't dictate my bladder. So I'm like all frustrated, and I started secretly texting my mom because I wasn't allowed to use my phone in class. And I was like, "Mom, I'm sitting in class right now. My teacher won't let me use the restroom." And she was like, "I'll take care of it for you." And I was like, "Okay." So like 5 minutes goes by, and all of a sudden my teacher's phone starts ringing, and she walks up to it and answers it, and she's like, "Hello?" "Yeah. Okay, thank you." And then she walks up to me like so angry, and she like slams the pass on my desk, and she was like, "Since you have to go that bad." And I was like, "Yeah, I really do, thanks." And I got up and left. I didn't even have to go to the bathroom. It was just the principle of it. I just roamed the halls.